Yo, what's up?
What's good?
Steve Ploetz, Contingent on You Listening podcast, here with some other guy that showed up. I don't know who he is.
Shout out to all the Isaiah heads online. I appreciate the love and support. Thank you.
Hey, we thought we would do something fun today, and here's the thought. The thought is that the residential real estate negotiation, that being an agent, that dealing with buyers and sellers oftentimes comes with some weird things as part of it. And some of those things are the way that agents do business. Mm-hmm. Some of them are the way that we have to handle our respective clients. And so, dun, 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 what I thought we could talk about today.
I just love that Steve nicely worded that, hey, our industry's got a bad reputation. Here's why there's a bad reputation.
Here's why it's a bad reputation. We want to talk red flags.
Yes.
And we want to talk red flags about being a buyer, red flags being a seller, and red flags if you're an agent. Because certainly our audience is all of them.
Yes.
Do you want me to go first? Isaiah's done his.
I did some
Isaiah's
homework.
kind of the homework guy.
I did some
I
homework.
bet he did well on the SAT. Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Oh,
no,
my gosh.
No.
Well, anyways.
I got the degree, okay?
Oh, you got the.
Yeah, I'm here.
C's get degrees. And then he became a realtor. How appropriate.
Yes.
So with that, red flags, I'll give you my first that actually I heard about today. Mm-hmm. So I'll go first, and then we can kind of play off of it. Monday morning, buyer submits a full price offer on a listing.
Okay.
The listing agent takes 1 week to respond, and the following Monday, they accept. Meanwhile, that Saturday and Sunday, they do an open house, and the buyer's agent, who's a good friend of mine, talks to her clients and says, hey, here's the deal. Don't worry. They're just trying to squeeze every penny out of this transaction. They're trying to, the listing agent is trying to do their due diligence.
Right.
Meanwhile, in her head, she is screaming, I'm sure. I'm screaming, like going, what are you doing, Mr. Buyer's agent? So so one of the red flags that I would say, so inevitably, they've opened escrow. Today, we're recording on a Monday. So today they are trying to put the deal in together. And truth be told, the buyer's now having second thoughts because the buyer felt like, hey, man, I gave you full price day one, and you sat on it for 7 days.
Yeah.
And now, F you.
Right.
Why wouldn't you move forward with it? And I think it's what's kind of counterintuitive is the listing agent feels like they're doing the best service for their seller by waiting and making sure that there's no other offers. But now I think what's going to happen is the buyer's going to feel like I overpaid.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody else has submitted an offer.
Yeah.
Do not and what's the whole thought process? You're going to squeeze another $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 out of someone else. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Red flag number one.
Red flag number one.
Talk to us on red flag number two.
Here's a red flag number two. We've all probably seen it. Don't you hate when you go onto the MLS and you go and look and the description has all caps? What the hell, man? Who puts all
I
caps?
agree. It definitely, I mean, it's
all caps? Is
it's
that
minor.
appropriate?
It's a red flag. I'm with you.
It's a red flag.
It's a red flag. It doesn't really impact like the transaction all that much, but it certainly doesn't convey the property or the listing agent in a very good light.
It does not. It's like, what are you yelling for?
I certainly agree with that. And my opinion, if you're going to sales is all about authenticity. And if you're trying to pitch something as like absolutely incredible, this is the best ever, it better be absolutely incredible and the best ever.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just noise.
Right.
And I think that's the downside of all caps. Red flag number three.
Number three is when an agent does not read the listing/showing remarks.
And you just had this, right?
Yes.
On a listing of yours. What's the brief story?
So really quick, tenant occupied condo. You can't see it because it's tenant occupied. You need to go through me and I need to coordinate with the tenant. I just can't stand when they don't read those showing remarks and they go through showing time. Or worse, I actually had someone who tried showing the property because they got it mixed up in the lockbox and it was a nightmare. I can't even go into details about it, but that stuff is just a red flag.
And honestly, that stuff matters when it comes time to negotiate a deal.
Right.
If I'm the butthead agent that either didn't read it or just showed up unannounced or steamrolls the tenant or is mean to the, I mean, even though in any other negotiation, you feel like, hey, let's look at dollars and cents.
Right.
That kind of stuff matters. And certainly if I'm the listing agent and you're representing the buyer, what we call the selling agent, if we're stepping into that relationship, I want to make sure that I can work with you
100%.
for 30 days.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to be difficult, even if you've got a great client, sometimes that impacts the transaction. Now we hope that as listing agents,
Yes.
that they have the ability to say, you know what, it's my job to deal with a difficult buyer, a difficult buyer's agent, a difficult seller. My job is to facilitate a deal, but not every agent thinks that way.
Yeah.
So that was red flag number 3. Hit me with red flag number 4.
Number 4. How about this one, Steve? I'm sure you've experienced this. Not shutting off lights or leaving the doors unlocked.
Yeah, and I would say that just kind of falls in the category of like lack of professionalism.
Right.
That I always feel like just can leave a sour taste for a seller.
100%.
That feeling like, hey, how hard is it? Sometimes it's so obvious. Sometimes it's like the back slider is still wide open, those kinds of things. And I think that sometimes that stems from a buyer's agent not having the confidence to just tell a buyer like, hey, hang on one second.
Yeah.
Let me just check everything on the way out, especially if there's multiple people. Like if you got husband and wife and a couple of kids that are running around and like everybody's excited to look at the house, to just do hey, let me check. Let me make sure that the lights are turned off.
Simple professionalism. And come on, you're already showing them. You're not going to lose them.
And with that, I would say, as it relates to professionalism, is like also communicating to a listing agent, hey, I'm running 20 minutes early. Is it possible that I can show? I know we scheduled it for 1 p.m. Can we go at 12:40? Or, hey, I want to give you the heads up. We're running about 45 minutes late.
Yep.
Like I understand this stuff is tricky for the agent, but if you can't do it yourself, first of all, you definitely can. Like figure out your process to open the lockbox, communicate to the clients, hey, I want to communicate because we've set some appointments. I want to be respectful to these other people. I think honestly that puts you in a very good light.
Right.
Like the idea of I'm a pro, I'm going to respect other people's time the same way that I'm going to respect yours.
Yep.
Don't get me started.
I would honestly put that as a red flag number 5, the timing.
The time. I mean, it's just, I think all of that, I mean, I'm cheating and looking at your little things like typos and grammatical errors in the listing. All of this, I think, just falls under lack of professionalism. That just communicate and just, if you've scheduled a showing and you're canceling the showing, communicate you're canceling the showing. Wow, what a concept.
Right.
If you are early or late, and I would also say that what goes along with that, not truly a red flag, but something that I think we all represent buyers and sellers, is of course, as a listing agent, we want the feedback. Like you guys saw it, tell me what's going on over there.
Yeah.
Here's a concept, is as a buyer's agent, be proactive on that.
Right.
Like what a concept. That would go a long way. If I show a listing of yours and I'm able to say, hey, Isaiah, I just locked everything up. I just walked through. The door is locked and the key is in the lockbox. They might have some interest. Follow up with me later about it. Or,
good point.
Hey, I appreciate you making the property available, and the road noise was too much.
Yeah.
They're not interested.
Yeah, that's valuable. That's 100%
like
valuable.
How that takes 30 seconds,
right?
Maybe a minute's time, and then it's off your plate. And all these, because inevitably what I feel like is all these buyer's agents complain like, well, we showed 8 of them. Which one was it? I can't remember. And I get that.
Yeah.
Like showing property is a pain.
Right.
And you got stuff to coordinate. But I think that professionalism will carry not only for your clients and the respect that they have for you, but also with other agents. That then if you do a solid for me, and then all of a sudden, the next time that you show another property of mine, I see from the previous time you say, hey, Steve, I locked it up. Here's the stuff. Like, you feel like a pro.
If it puts you in a good light and it makes the listing agent comfortable to work with you, and you know what I mean?
And we're exiting a market where like sellers had 100% of the power.
Yeah.
But if the seller has 100% of the power, you better be on point.
Right.
And that means like your client better have a pre-approval. They better have a proof of funds. You better write a clean offer, but also you better be professional. And if you aren't professional and all that stuff works against you.
100%.
So
Yeah.
All right. What else you got on your little cool
We
list?
got a giant list. Instead of just, we're losing count because there's so many red flags, right? Let's just keep going through
All
them.
right, just jam through them.
We'll jam
I
through
know
them.
it's hard for you to count past 5.
How about this idea? How about when they you can't get them to answer the phone? You get it. It can be a text message, right?
This would probably be the number one red flag for me.
Gotcha.
That's just most irritating. And I will say there's some big teams out there that do great business, and that they have you like call an office number or submit an offer to info@abcrealty.com. I get it. We're all trying to, as we've talked about with guests and everybody else, there's a lot of different ways to skin this cat, but communication is critical.
Right.
And if I'm going to submit an offer on your listing, I need to know, what does the seller want?
Yeah.
Like yes, they want $10 million. Got it. That's also only one piece of a very long, robust contract.
For sure.
Talk to me on the other stuff.
Yeah.
Do they want to take any of the personal property?
Right.
What are they looking for in terms of timing? Do they need a lease back? This kind of stuff.
How soon would they prefer to close?
How soon would they prefer to close?
Yeah,
Is there any contingencies I need to know about? Is there any significant disclosures I need to be aware of?
See, I've learned a thing or two since I've been on this podcast,
you have.
right?
Absolutely you have. And I know I make fun of you all the time because you're such an easy target, but legitimately you've come a long way.
I appreciate that.
And I do feel like now you're able to see, like, here's my thought as it relates to realtors facilitating a deal, is that realtors that either lack self-confidence or feel insecure or don't do a huge amount of business feel like the way that they can make up for that is that they can go to bat for their client over some minuscule thing. Hey, we asked for all refrigerators and your seller took the refrigerator that was in the garage, that piece of crap that was worth $50 tops, like we're going to go to war for it. In the same way that I just feel like our job as agents, and I try to communicate this with buyer's agents when I'm, just because I feel like the listing agent can take point a little bit more than the buyer's agent. But as the listing agent, I'm constantly telling the buyer's agent, hey, we're working together, you and me. Let's facilitate a deal. Because here's what I know. You don't have to be a genius to know this. Everybody wants to get to the close of escrow.
Right.
You and I don't get paid until we get to the close of escrow.
100%.
Your buyer wrote an offer because they want this property and they want to get to the close of escrow. My client listed the property because they want to sell it and they want to get to the... So we all got the same goal in mind. So let's not get caught up on a $2,000 request for repairs. Let's not get caught up in the minutia. Like... focus. And the only way to bring it back, man, I'm getting a lot of words in this.
Dude, this is valuable, man.
The only way that we're going to be able to get there is through communication. Is through you being available. And communicate when you are or are not available. If like your style is like, hey, you don't do cell phone. Hey, you don't do text messaging, like whatever, that's fine. We can work around it, but you got to let me know where you stand.
Exactly. You got to have that communication up front to let them know. Like,
because like there's nothing, you want to talk about my pet peeves. Now we're getting into my stuff. Is like
pet peeves with Steve.
Pet peeves with Steve. Contingency removal is like everybody negotiates that all contingencies to be removed day 14 and day 12, everybody goes quiet. Quiet 12, quiet 13, quiet 14. I'm like calling a lender, calling the buyer's agent, like, hey, I need an update. What's the status? Here we are. They haven't submitted a request for repairs. It's day 15. Like that is bad business.
100%.
Bad business. And inevitably all it does is and this is where an agent thinks that maybe it's helping them when in actuality, all it's doing is hurting them. It's pissing off a seller. And now I've got my hands filled trying to communicate to a seller, and I'm trying to make excuses for a buyer or a buyer's agent, like, hey, no big deal. I haven't heard from them, but it is the 3rd week of July. And so that's just kind of the way it goes sometimes. Nothing to be concerned about. Like, we'll get there. Everything's proceeding nicely, blah, 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 blah. I hate a bunch of promises up front. Hey, we're going to make this easy. We're going to communicate. Our lender's on it. And then all of a sudden, radio silence. Here's my takeaway.
Yes.
I can deal with bad news, and so can every one of my sellers. We cannot deal with no news. We can't deal with being left in the dark.
No, that's all right. Correct. Lesson learned, guys. Answer your damn phones.
Answer
please.
Your damn phone. What else you got? In your,
how about this one? I'm sure you've come across this plenty of times. How about a poorly written purchase offer?
Oh, I mean, yeah.
It's like how much of a headache is that? Not just for you, but it's like
I think it's beyond I mean, everything can be cleaned up with a counter offer. Certainly, like we've written, if it's the only offer you got, and you feel like, well, here we go, we got to figure out how to do it. We just got to write a counter offer with 16 addenda so that we can address everything. But it just makes the agent look unprofessional, inexperienced, that they're not going to know what they're doing. And so when I receive one of those types of offers, I'm communicating to the seller and I'm saying that, hey, these people have money. I've spoken with their lender. They're approved. If I receive an offer like that that's really poorly written, I will check to see how many deals the agent has done. And hopefully I see that they haven't done any. So then I can say, hey, look, this is an inexperienced agent. So nothing wrong with that. Just know that I'm going to have to kind of coach him through this. And I just want to set the table for you. This is already a stressful process. Here's what's coming.
And the value in that is that you are communicating this with the seller. This isn't just your own thoughts in your head saying like, oh, this is a new agent. Like BS, I'm not going to deal with them. No, you got to communicate that because it's in their hands. Because again, you represent the seller and what's best for them. And if they say, hey, they got the most money, we'll, I'm sorry, Steve, but can you help coach this guy because it's the most money? You know what I mean? Like
absolutely. And at the same time, I think having the ability to say, look, this is who I recommend. This is who I don't recommend. And here's why, and here's what's going on. Also, excuse me, is sometimes people that are late to the game is what I mean is we come on the market on Thursday, first showings on Friday. We price it hopefully correctly. We end up with a lot of activity and a lot of offers. Now it's Monday or Tuesday. We've already sent out a seller multiple counteroffer. And now all of a sudden a new buyer that just saw it Tuesday morning says, hey, do we still have time? To which I say, yes, seller multiple counters are out. We're asking for highest and best, or we're countering at the new price, et cetera, et cetera. Here's where things are at. But you got to come in strong, and you're only going to get one shot at this. And then they shoot the moon. Same thing. I'm communicating to the seller, hey, let me give you a little bit of background on what's going on here. What's going on is we were negotiating those 4 offers. Offer number 5 snuck in on Tuesday morning. And I told them, absolutely. But they're caught up in the frenzy, potentially. They haven't had the weekend to write the offer on Friday or Saturday, receive the SMCO, sleep on it, maybe go back for another visit, click through the photos 700 times. Now all of a sudden we're like, it's the 11th hour. Sometimes moving forward with that buyer, they feel like, even though it's not true, they feel like, oh, did I just get tricked? Did they not have any offers? Did I come in way over asking because they just accepted my offer? Like, that's just something to be aware of.
No, that's good. That's valuable. I appreciate that.
We'll give you 2 more. You want 2 more?
2 more. How about this? I think we've all received this call. When you get a call from the buyer's agent and they say, hey, what's it going to take to get this done? What's it going to take? It's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I think that when and I understand what the agent is trying to do. What the agent is trying to do, I find that honestly less as a red flag and more as like salesmanship, where they're trying to figure out, hey, there might be multiple offers. Steve, we want to cut to the front of the line here. How do we do that? I'm totally comfortable with that. And I think there's some questions that then take place of like, well, I know nothing about your client. What kind of financing are there? I'm not the decision maker.
So like, I know it's not, I know you're saying you don't necessarily classify it as a red flag because you get the salesmanship on it. But I think opening up with, hey, what's it going to take? It's like, what do you want me to tell you guys?
Exactly.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can tell you.
It just feels phony. At the same time, it's worse if somebody, like, we all get these sales calls where they're like, ring, ring, hello. And they're like, hey, Steve, how you doing, man? Like, what's happening? How was your weekend? And I'm like, you don't care. Like, and I don't care that you don't care. So like, just get to your pitch and just tell me what's going on. I will say I don't mind the what's it going to take as much as perhaps you do. I just feel like then it gives me the opportunity to say, look, we've got multiple offers. We're way over asking price. If depending on the circumstance, if the seller has told me like, hey, you can notify people where we're at, that I'll say, hey, we're $40,000 over asking price. We've got 2 or 3 in hand, whatever it may be. In the same way that every agent across the board, our team included, if we don't have an offer, we will say, got a lot of interest.
Yeah.
Hey, we've got a lot of people that are plugging away. I think now if you can write us something good or solid, or here's what the seller's looking for, I think it at least opens up that conversation. Not as big a red flag to me as it is to you.
I do know some agents. I'm not going to just speak for myself. I do know some agents who do, it rubs them the wrong way. So
absolutely.
That's fair. That's fair. I'll bring it to the
table. I
table.
will say this. The listing agent is the gatekeeper.
Right.
And so the listing agent, unfortunately, dictates the rules of the game.
Yes.
And the rules of the game are ever changing. And so there's some agents that you can call them up and you can say, hey, where do we need to be? And they'll say $1,085,000 will win it.
Yeah.
And there's other agents that will leave you in the dark or not respond, or, in the same way, like escalation clauses.
Yes. Oh, yes.
That's another thing and as a buyer's agent, it's critical to make sure that we understand, is the listing agent playing that game?
Right.
Can we submit an escalation clause? My clients really want it. Are you good with that? All those things kind of play in.
Fair. And
last one.
How about asking for a fax number? Are we still doing? People still do fax, but I'm like, come on.
Yeah, I certainly agree, and that's and I don't find it as big a red flag as you do, but it just means that we're working with a demographic of agent that is obviously tends to be older,
right?
And so we figure it out. And I will tell you in the same way that I have a client right now. We're in escrow, doesn't have a scanner, doesn't have email. I was like, you don't have email? What is this, like 1900?
Well, the owner of that condo only does email and a landline phone number.
See, but at least you can do landline at least you do email, so you can do DocuSign. But for us,
my bad. No email.
No email.
Just landline.
That's
everything
us.
has to be signed in person. Wet contract.
Yeah. And so I think also communicating that to the buyer's agent, like, hey, here's the circumstance. So and if I know that going in, we're going to price it right so that we can get multiple offers, and then I'm going to print out a bunch of stacks of paper and go in there and hey, let's talk through it.
Nice.
So here's what we would like from you.
Yes.
I like Isaiah trying to get a word in.
No, I was saying I was trying to wrap it up. I was trying to wrap it up with a nice little bow.
We want to know your red flags.
Yes, please.
We want to know. Put them in the comments. What did we miss? What did I miss? What did Isaiah miss? Because I didn't miss it. What are the other ones that you feel like are absolutely like, I do not want to do business with this person, whether it's a client, whether it's another agent? We'd love to have your input.
And I do want to put a little disclaimer out there. Hey, I hope we didn't offend anybody.
Oh, I hope we offended at least half of our people.
It's fun. It's just some fun. And hey, if you do any of these red flags, just take a step back and reevaluate yourself, right?
Isaiah, if they have a fax machine, they probably don't know how to subscribe to a podcast, so I think we're okay.
That's fair.
Hey, thank you for joining us. Please like, subscribe, share it with your friends. We'd love to interact with you. We've got some emails that are in the chat, so you can send us some emails on some thoughts or some things that we should be talking about or people we should be interviewing, and maybe we should interview you.
100%.
So join us.
Steve, look at you paying the bills.
Look at me.
Yeah, great job.
Bada bing.
Thanks, everybody.
Hope to see you soon. Thanks so much for joining us.